G'day folks, welcome to Bushy's Projects. We're here in the new workshop in Port Elliot, and today we're going to make a couple of marshmallow roasters out of these two railway spikes. As part of the process of drawing out the spikes, we could do it on the flat dies, but it's much more efficient to use the drawing dies. Because of that shape, as you're hammering in from both sides with one this shape and one the same on the other side, it's squeezing out the material. It helps to elongate it. And if you want to widen your material, you can come around from the side and gain some width on it as well. So it's just a more directed way of stretching out your material. All right, so the first step, we just need to isolate a bit of material right on the end to make the forks for the toaster. So to do that, we don't want to go too crazy. Get it going. Just take it down a bit, not too much, because it's going to bend as we work. So nice and thick like that. And then we just start drawing it out. Just going to give her a quick little straighten, just to, roughly get the kinks out a little bit, and straight back in the heat. All right, so we've got them forged out with our shanks and our material that's been isolated for the fork. Now, if you tried to chisel cut these or, angle grind them or something like that, then you're going to have a bit of trouble with the transitions, and also there's going to be like a dag running along the side where you've cut it with a chisel. So the best way, I'll show you in a second, is to actually punch the hole, draw out the ring a little bit, split it with a guillotine, and then forge the two sides out into the forks. So I've cooled down the heads so I can hold on to the spike directly, and now we just need to keep this bit cool so I can hold on to it while heating up the ends to like 1,000 degrees. So it takes a little bit of mucking around, but we'll get on to that. All right, so we've stretched out the vast majority of what we're going to stretch out, right? Though the shanks themselves, they're really rough forged. They look kind of cool, but I need to thin them down a bit more and keep it really even towards the end, because ideally your marshmallow roaster needs to be at least this long. When you've got your little fire bucket going, or you've got your campfire and you drag the coals off to the side and you're roasting your marshmallows, if it's too short, obviously, you're too close to the heat. So with these ones, we're going to actually make them extra long, because these are going to be some that we take home and keep for the kids. The reason we keep our stock ones a little bit shorter is for postage. It's really hard to post things when they start getting a bit too long. So with these, you'll see they're going to be a little bit longer than our standard one, but our standard one is, a good size, just for a kind of a backyard or a small campfire fire bucket. So we moved out of the shed up over in Goolwa at the same time that we actually had to get out of our place in Middleton. We come back from the UK and we had to shift house and had to shift a ton of materials that I've been collecting to the new place. And within a couple of weeks, we were so lucky, we managed to get a new workshop and a new place to live. So we ended up here in Port Elliot. The shed, it's a 150 square metre shed. We've got this lean-to. We fully fitted it out. We insulated it. I've got electrician in to put in power points everywhere. We put a wall up, built a door, fully enclosed it. So, it's all insulated for keeping it cool in summer. Also for the sound, because we make a lot of noise, as you can imagine. But yeah, we're loving the new workshop. It's heaps of space. We've set it up really nice and open in here so you can move around easily. But yeah, let's get into it. They're ready to go. All right, here we go. Now, normally with a bottle opener, we come in from the end, the same distance as we do from the sides, but with this one, because we're making them quite long, we actually come back a little bit more from the A little bit more from the end, nice and central though. We'll get our little, you know you nailed it when it just sticks in there perfectly, just like that. And then send her through. There we go. Knock our little slug off. There she goes. And a nice, pretty clean hole. A lot cleaner than, yeah, if you had just taken that material and tried to chisel cut it. And also now, we've got that radius for our transition between the forks. It's a bit tight right now and it's all like, material's pretty thick, but this is just one more step towards the final product. All right, so line her up as best we can for the middle and with a quick, not quite, hate it when that happens. There we go, cut through. So even with that, you can see what I mean, there's like a little dag hanging where it tapers right down to that point where it's sheared off. So that needs to be ground off. Here we go. Open it up just enough to grind those little burrs off. Here we go again. Beautiful. All right, so they're dressed, they're looking good, nice and hot. Bring it straight over to the anvil, and we just need to do a little bit of a tweak here to get our material a bit more in line. So now I can easily go from there to there, to there, to there. So working both sides. So that's just about enough for one heat, because it heats up super fast. So there's no reason to wear yourself out on cold steel. But I'm really liking this, it's looking good. So as you can see already, that one's good to go. It was only back in there for that period of time that we were just forging that other one. Open these up again, back into it. Usually I'd focus on one at a time, but circumstances always are not the same, so we can just chop and change a bit. Had a lot of experience, so most people, it'll definitely pay to do one at a time. Keep things square and nice and even, looking pretty good. So the next step, now that we've roughly shaped everything, got it pretty straightened out, the next step is to grab some of this material back here and stretch it out. Now because of the jaws of these tongs, we can't actually access this material here without the dies slamming into the jaws of the tongs. So what we've got to do is take them off, obviously, and pop that in the forge to heat that up, and we'll hold on to this end to use the flat dies to gain a little bit more length out of that section there. So you can see the before and after there. The one on top's the after. So that little cross section of material now has been reduced, which of course makes it longer. You can look carefully at these two spikes. If you look at the length of these spikes, you can see that this one is a slight bit longer, only a tiny bit. Yeah, this one, it's much thinner through here, and this one's a bit thicker. So the smallest little difference in thickness can make quite a big difference in the length. So let's get them back in the heat and we'll go on with the next step. Yeah, flip it all the way around and we're going to open the back door and pass it all the way through the forge. Alright, so this is where we gain a good bit of length. So I've put this right through out the other side of the forge, and now we're going to stretch her out. Alright, so we get it pretty square and even. That one's just about done. We just need to straighten it out. So that's gained a bit of length. Could go longer, but I do want to retain some of that forge texture back there. Just needs a straighten and a clean up, and that'll be perfect. Might forge a tiny bit more on that prong as well, just to stretch it out, or maybe grind some off of that one, we'll see. Good. A little bit wonky. Won't take much to fix. Turn that off. All right. So when you just look at something like so, like from the side, you can kind of make out some of the imperfections. But if you look down it, which you may not be able to get focus on it because of the depth, you can see that's actually pretty good. A little bit of a bend, but that way it kind of suits it. So we're holding it this way, so a bit of an upward bend isn't bad. But yeah, those couple of hits pretty well took care of things. Forks, yeah, I'll straighten those a little. Let's get a bit of heat on them while I straighten this one out. Now this material it's a pretty low carbon steel as far as like knives and things go, but it's got about double the amount of carbon as mild steel. So anyone who does welding or metal fabrication or anything like that, they're dealing with mild steel all the time. This is one up from that, but probably two down from a blade steel, if you know what I mean. You can get it hard though, with a nice hot water quench. So hot, really hot steel, cold water, if you know what I mean. But yeah, that's pretty close too. So I won't put that in just yet because it only takes a few seconds to heat up. We'll get this one straightened out. So as you can see, they are very hot indeed. So little tweaks, shut across, look down it. This side here needs to come in. So what we do for that, we come right around, spread it against there, a couple of taps, very light. It's better to use a light hammer. This is a bit heavy, this one. But I'll just swap it out. Now, if you look, that curve kind of runs straight into here where that one kind of kicks out to the side, right? So what we need to do is come right around here like so, and hit that. And we're bending the other one, but we'll fix that later. All right, so we've bent our prongs in, but we've fixed this part back here. It's still not perfect, but it will roast a marshmallow, trust me. So we'll get a quick heat on that and then straight back to the forks. All right, straight back to the forks. Have a look where we want it to bend. Give it a little tap, it'll help. It's pretty good. We'll just nip a bit off that one to even them up. Looking down it, looks pretty good. So a quick easy way to cut it is on the guillotine. You can come in, put your other prong on the actual top blade, hold it about 90 degrees, and just snip it off. All right, as you can see, we've got a very high-tech piece of equipment here, literally made of pieces of scrap metal, but it goes on the vise like this. We crank her up tight, and then back it off half a turn, lock her in place with this one, and we have a helping hands. So this is designed to hold onto the head of the spike. It's moving around a bit, so we'll just tighten it up a little. As long as this can move and it's not moving around too much in the vise, then we're sweet. This is the last step basically as far as heat and forging and stuff goes. The only other thing after this will be the actual quench to harden all the material. But this is the last time we're going to manipulate the material. Now we just need to get the heat really isolated on that bottom section, because we don't want the heat up here in this thin part, because that'll just twist really easy. We want it right down the bottom there, that thick part to be really hot, so that I can just wrench on these forks to get that twist in there. And we don't want it hot, we want it really hot, so it's nice and easy. So we'll get that one going. As soon as this one's got a good bit of heat into it, I'll put that one in, and while we're mucking around, that one can heat up and we'll just go bam bam, get them both done. All right, everything's pretty well done. Everything's the shape we want it, so it's time for the quench. Looking good. I'll go get the lights back on. All right, so final stages. We are going to knock off the little sharp bits. We're going to wire brush the surface. Quickly just do a little bit of grinding on the prongs to even them up. Clean it all up. Then we're going to hit the handle part with the heat from the forge burner. So over here at the forge, and on the table there, we'll set it up and we'll blast the handle portions with the flame to bring in the temper colors. So the colors, they're just layers of oxide building up. So you heat up the steel, it starts interacting with the oxygen in the atmosphere, starts layering up all of these oxides. The layers, they are absorbing and reflecting different spectrums of light. And as you go through from cooler to hotter, you start off with a kind of a very slight yellow to a gold to a deep straw to a blue purple. It goes right through to a light grey blue. When it gets really hot, it's kind of just like a matte grey blue. So we want a really vivid gold, blue, purple colour, and we'll just see how we go with that, because it is quite tricky to nail it. So you'll see all the process, and we'll get stuck into that now. A little bit more. Much. Hot right on the nose there, but it's traveling through quite nice. So we'll hit that shank. Blast this shank pretty hard, get that color right down on this one. Let's check it. The difference in temperature from the yellow to the blue is only about 40 degrees. 40 to 60 degrees. I'm not 100% sure. There you go. See that colour coming in there? All right, I've got to dip it in the water because it's getting a bit light. But that quick dip is going to freeze it. So we've got the transition here. We've got some really bright, sort of the almost burnt temper on the points. All right, so everything's cooled down now. We've got time to seal the handle section of the marshmallow roaster. Now this is going to stop the moisture getting to it. It's going to stop the rust. You know, it's going to give it a fairly good bit of protection. It can get rust if you keep it out in the weather, you know, if you leave it wet outside in the dew or in the rain, it'll get a little bit of rust on it. But this is like really good for just protecting it. It's called BC Coatings. We get it from Paint Central in Adelaide. But we'll get just a good thick coat of that on there. Now you don't have to worry about runs or anything like that. You're best off just getting it all on there. Now, if it was a nice flat surface, then you worry about runs. But there's nothing flat about that surface. All right. The last step. So this is a special oil that I make. It's a combination of neat's foot oil and beeswax oil. Special wax that I make. It's all natural. You know, neat's foot oil is pretty. There's no nasties in there. And the beeswax, of course, that's good for everything. So we just get it on there. Heat her up and melt it on. All right, and that's that. Right, there you go, 2 marshmallow roasters. I reckon they turned out pretty good. 2 different styles. I reckon the kids are gonna love them, and we'll get them home and get them roasting marshmallows tonight, I'd say. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing. Hit that notification bell because we're a new channel. You're not going to see us again unless you engage. See you next time.